The decision didn't come all at once. It came the way most irreversible things do. Slowly, then all at once. The diagnosis was terminal. The treatment was expensive in the way that made the word meaningless. And the people you loved most had lives that would survive your absence. The Lazarus Protocol had been operational for 4 years. They would cool your body to a temperature at which biological time stopped, seal you in a pressurized capsule, and store you until medicine caught up with whatever had broken inside you. Could be decades. Could be longer. You signed the contract on a Tuesday in October, brought one photograph, a group of people squinting into the sun at a summer barbecue, someone laughing at something just out of frame. And when the sedation began, it was gentle, a warmth at the edges of everything, and you closed your eyes, thinking that you would either wake up healed or you wouldn't wake up at all, and that either way, the waiting would finally be over. The cold doesn't leave you all at once. At first, you stop feeling your fingers and toes, then your limbs entirely, until finally, your very existence is reduced to a single, pulsing thought in the darkness. Am I still here? This isn't the kind of frost that invigorates on a winter morning. It is a monolithic, absolute void that has frozen the very marrow of your bones. The first thing that returns isn't sight, but a sense of monstrous weight. Your eyelids feel like leaden plates, impossible to lift. Your first breath is taken with such agony, it feels as if you are trying to tear through steel chains with your chest. Instead of air, something sterile and searing rushes into your lungs, tasting of ozone and clinical chemicals. A faint, barely perceptible hum rings in your ears, gradually breaking down into the rhythmic, irritating beeps of medical machinery. You hear them, and therefore, you are alive. When you finally manage to part your eyelids, the world greets you not with an embrace, but with a blinding, razor-sharp white light. You expected a flurry of activity, doctors in white coats, the triumphant shouts of scientists celebrating a successful experiment. Instead, there is a haunting, almost sacral silence. The only thing you feel is a raw, primal fear. You are lying in a transparent capsule, something akin to a high-tech sarcophagus, and your body refuses to obey you. You try to scream, to ask what year it is, to ask if anyone you once loved is still breathing, but only a weak, raspy groan escapes your throat. A single thought pulses in your brain. You have made a catastrophic mistake. You jumped into the future, but you may have landed in a graveyard. Your mind refuses to accept a reality where everyone you ever knew has turned to dust centuries ago. You are an archaeological find, a living anachronism in plastic packaging. Adaptation takes an eternity. Days blur into weeks spent in a sterile box. No people are allowed near you, only shadows flicker behind the frosted glass. Your first contact with a human of the future sends you into a state of shock. The woman who introduces herself as your curator looks almost like the people of your time, but there is a frightening, unnatural precision in her movements. A thin silver line runs along her temple, disappearing under the skin behind her ear. And her eyes. When she looks at you, you notice the pupils shifting focus with a barely audible mechanical click, like a camera lens. She doesn't use a tablet or paper. She simply stares into the void in front of her, her fingers making slight conductor-like movements in the air. She is interacting with an interface woven directly into her nervous system. You realize she isn't a robot, but she isn't quite human by your standards either. She is a symbiosis of flesh and hardware. Against her perfect functionality, you feel like a defective, dirty fragment of a bygone era. When you are finally allowed to leave the containment unit, the first thing that strikes you is the absence of familiar noise. In your memory, cities were filled with the roar of engines, the smell of exhaust, and the shrill cries of advertisements. Here, a heavy silence prevails, broken only by the rustle of fabric and soft footsteps. The city you find yourself in resembles a giant, breathing organism. Impossible architectural forms made of matte composite and darkened glass soar so high into the sky that their peaks are lost in the clouds. Transport pods glide silently along magnetic lines between buildings. And the people. They are everywhere, yet they do not speak to one another aloud. They walk immersed in themselves, their gazes fixed on nothing. Soft indicators occasionally flash beneath the skin of their hands and faces. You walk among them, feeling as though you have gone deaf. But then, the terrible truth hits you. You are the one who is blind and deaf. The entire world around you is permeated with streams of data that they perceive directly through their implants. To them, you are a ghost, a sensory cripple, unable to see the informational layer of reality. They grant you a temporary external terminal, a bulky bracelet and an uncomfortable lens for your eye, so you can at least begin to navigate. These are the crutches intended to replace what the locals have had since birth. You sit in a park where the trees look too perfect to be real and activate access to the archives. That is when history collapses upon you. 1,000 years of wars, discoveries, catastrophes, and triumphs compressed into digital files. Your brain refuses to process the scale of what has transpired. You read about the great digital split of the 22nd century, when nations ceased to exist in a geographical sense, transforming into network alliances based on types of augmentation. You watch reports of future conflicts. They bear no resemblance to what you knew. No trenches, no carpet bombings, only precision hacking strikes that shut down life support implants for entire regions, or viral programs that drive people insane by rewriting their visual perception. You look at the maps of the world and do not recognize them. The outlines of the continents have shifted. Some coastal cities you once knew are now deep underwater, while artificial forests maintained by climate control systems go green where deserts used to be. But what shocks you most is how history books describe your era. They call the 21st century the age of ignorant egoism. To these people, your worries, your fears, and the disputes of politicians over borders and resources look like children fighting in a sandbox. They have endured periods of total algorithmic dictatorship and bloody uprisings of pure humans against the augmented. They eventually arrived at this strange, cold, sterile world. There is no more rage in the eyes of the passers-by, but there seems to be none of the passion you remember either. Everything is optimized, everything is functional. You try to make sense of the economy, and your head begins to spin. The concept of money, as you understood it, has vanished. There are no more dollars, euros, or gold. The entire value system is now built around two resources: computational credit and biological reserve. Everything depends on how much processing power your brain and implants can provide to the collective network and what your genetic health potential is. You find historical records of the exchange rates for the currencies of your time. They plummeted to zero 800 years ago during a global default. All your savings, which seemed like a fortune and a guarantee of a comfortable life before you were frozen, are now worth less than a single atom of the air you breathe. Your entire world, your ambitions, your career, all of it was wiped away by time, like chalk from a blackboard. You are a nobody here, and you possess nothing but your outdated analog body. You scroll through the newsfeed of the current day via your clumsy lens. The headlines read like the delusions of a madman. Jupiter Moon Colony reports successful completion of third sector terraforming. Ethics Council denies request for mass implementation of empathy protocol. People here don't just live. They moderate their internal states, like settings in a video game. Feel sad? You don't go to a psychologist. You simply download a mood patch. Lacking focus for work? You just increase the clock speed of your neurochip. In the evening, you watch the sunset. The sun is the only thing that hasn't changed. It still sinks below the horizon, bathing the world in orange light. But clouds? Because of the atmospheric filtration, it has an unnatural, almost violet tint in the twilight. You read about the wars of the 26th century, where millions died in a dispute over chip standards. It makes you realize that human nature remains unchanged. We will always find a reason for conflict. It's just that our tools have become more elegant and more devastating. The fear of those first days is replaced by a deep, infinite, chilling melancholy. You look at these people with their flawless skin and built-in interfaces, and you realize that you are the last truly lonely person on this planet. Your thoughts belong only to you because there is no one to transmit them to. Your memory is imperfect and fades over time, while they can replay any moment of their lives in perfect resolution. The technological leap changed the very essence of what it means to be. 1,000 years ago, your kind dreamed of the stars. Now, they are there, and it is mundane. But do they look at those stars with awe? Or is it for them just another coordinate in a navigation interface? You close your eyes, and for a moment, it feels as if you are still back in the ice chamber. This new world, beautiful and high-tech, feels just as cold to you as the liquid nitrogen that preserved your body for 10 centuries. You stand up from the bench and walk toward the glowing spires, trying to pace your steps to the rhythm of this foreign city. You have no choice. But you will try, because despite the chips and technology, the sun still sets, and the fear of an unknown tomorrow is the only thing that still connects you to these people. You are all still afraid of the dark. They've just sewn flashlights into their eyes so they never have to be alone with their thoughts. If you enjoyed our content, please give us a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. This little signal helps us know that we should keep delighting you with our content.